Okie dokie, artichokes. So this is the presentation of the article Becoming Muslim, the Development of a Religious Identity by Lori Peek. Okay, so as in my previous videos, I have written all the main points on my little whiteboard here, which we'll go over. So first of all, why is this research important? Why is this article important? So specifically Muslims can constitute a large, important part of an increasingly diverse religious landscape in American culture. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the United States, and people of Muslim faith come from a broad range of ethnicities, cultures, nationalities, and Islamic religions. Besides Christianity and the Judeo-Christian specifically, Islam is the third largest religious group. It is very large and broad. So the focus of this article is to focus on development and maintenance of religious identity. Once again, specifically focusing on Muslim religious identity specifically. So one of the things that this article says is that identity is considered a process of becoming rather than being. So what this means is that religious identity is dynamic and changes, and you always are kind of building upon it. One term that was really prominent in the article, and one term that was discussed quite a bit, was identity salience, which I boxed right there. So identity salience recognizes contributing factors and processes that make one identity, in this case being Muslim, of greater or even paramount importance in the hierarchy of multiple identities that comprise a sense of self. So identity salience basically says these are the contributing factors to why this aspect of identity is important over some other aspects. So this article is focusing on identity salience in the form of religion, and how religion, specifically being a Muslim, is more important than some other aspects of self-identity. So a reason why this is important is that many studies don't actually focus on the Muslim religion specifically, or the identity of Muslim religion, or the building of identity of Muslim religion. A lot of the studies that do incorporate Islam and Muslim religion is that they're identifying it in conjunction with ethnic identity, but they're not just studying the religion just as a separate own entity. So why is religion important? So why do we even study religious identity? Isn't it just one aspect of spirituality? It is, but religion offers, specifically from this article, 4 major things. So first of all, we're going to focus on alienation. So many immigrants react to alienation by reestablishing familiar social and cultural activities through religion. So how immigrants combat coming to a new country, not fitting in, is through making groups or communities of similar religious groups to feel important with the community. The second is psychological and social benefits. So religious organizations offer psychological and social benefits, such as being part of a group, having peers to talk to, and also if you have a social group, there can be some economic benefits as well. If you're falling on hard times, you have people to turn to. Next, religious identity and expression serve to ease tension caused by incongruent immigrant, ethnic, and American identities. So diverse communities are brought together. So diverse. What this is basically saying is that there's a lot of communities that are like separate and different, but a large religious community can bring all those diverse backgrounds or groups together once again forming that community, which is kind of the main point of the religion. And finally, distinctiveness. Basically, this is just saying that the reason why some Americans or people of the Muslim religion might decide to practice that religion is to maintain their distinct uniqueness in the multi-dimensional cultural and religious environment of America. So just to reiterate, why do we study religion, especially Muslim religion? Because it's a diverse religious landscape and Islam is growing fast. Identity salience, so why does religion have identity salience? And then why identity is important. Creating community in the face of alienation. It has psychological and social benefits, brings diverse groups together, and creates a distinct group in a multicultural landscape. Okay. So this article is actually an empirical study, and I haven't actually read an empirical study yet for this course, so it was quite interesting. It looked at a total of 127 Muslim students. It consisted of 83 individual interviews with a total of 106 quantitative interviews with 82 females and 45 males. So it was actually quite a comprehensive ethnographic study in the realm of ethnographic studies. So most participants in the study were considered highly religious. After the results of this study were completed, 3 stages of identity development were identified that build on religion. So religion is an ascribed identity, is the first step, then religion as a chosen identity, and then religion as a declared identity. So now we're just going to go through and just kind of describe each one of these things as they are described in the article. So religion as an ascribed identity. So of the 127 individuals, 117 were born to Muslim families. Basically, this is saying that when you're a child, religion is first ascribed to you most of the time. So you were born in that family with that specific religion. Religion was just one of the many aspects that defined who they were during their formative years. So religion really wasn't this overarching major part of their identity. It just was a part of their identity. They didn't think a lot about it. It wasn't anything they really were proud of or anything very special. It just was another part of their life. Students who grew up in Caucasian Judeo-Christian towns were more frequently felt the demands to fit into those compared to those raised in urban areas. So basically what this is saying is that when religion is an ascribed identity, or when they're younger, they felt pressures to conform to the general Caucasian Christian stream if they were in rural areas, and not so much in urban, but it was still felt in those aspects as well. This is just saying that, once again, religion isn't that important. It's just kind of part of who you are, and you feel the pressure to conform to the mainstream, and you don't really think about the impacts of what that would have on your religious beliefs. You just want to be like everybody else, and your religious beliefs isn't really that important. So secondly, religion as a chosen identity. So this is an important stage of religious identity development. A lot of people in the interviews found that once they went to a post-secondary institution, that's when they actually began to choose their religion. So during college, men and women became increasingly independent and responsible, and received cultural permission to participate in adult behaviors. So all of a sudden they had a choice, and they could be able to make their own decisions. All participants spoke about connecting with other Muslims in college. Once again, they felt when they were children, there weren't a lot of people. They weren't the mainstream. They were a religious minority, so there wasn't a lot of Muslim influence. Now going to college, there was a lot more people practicing Muslim faith, and so they felt part, once again, of a community. They felt like they could actually learn and be a part of that, so religion as a chosen identity. And then finally, as they matured, it became increasingly important not only to maintain religious identity, but to develop that aspect of themselves. So in the ascribed identity, yes, I'm Muslim, but what does that actually mean? What does that mean to me? That wasn't really thought about. Now with religion as a chosen identity, all of a sudden being Muslim means something, and what does that mean? How am I practicing it? Am I, praying 5 times a day, or what about Ramadan? Just things like that are part of the Islamic religion and being a Muslim. What does that mean to that individual, as that's a chosen identity in religion? Now, religion as a declared identity. So what this is usually developed, this is usually developed in a response to crisis. Now, this study specifically focused on the events in the aftermath of September 11th, 2001, or 9/11. So in months following 9/11, thousands of Muslims and Arabs, Sikhs, anybody with Middle Eastern background, endured discrimination, harassment, racial and religious profiling, and verbal and physical assault. So a lot of you would think that because of this, they wouldn't declare their identity, and so they would hide it. But actually what they found is that all of this led many Muslim students to pray more often and increase their need for a spiritual anchor, just as the events did for many Americans of different faiths. So what the media and what people that aren't part of the Muslim religion don't really think about is that all of a sudden these people are being profiled and discriminated against, and experiencing hardships, and they're going to turn to religion just as you would turn to prayer to the Christian God. And so what happened with the events of 9/11, it actually strengthened the Muslim faith and tradition in America. So to help field questions regarding their faith, regarding Islam and being a Muslim, Muslims actually studied the Quran and other religious documents more heavily, and they actually became better Muslims because they were being asked and cornered with all these questions because of the then Islamophobia and now Islamophobia going on. So they all of a sudden declared that Muslims are good, and they wanted to prove that they could positively represent Muslims and Islam to others. And so a lot of the examples were actually that Muslims or people of the Islamic religion would get singled out, physically and verbally assaulted, and they would do nothing because they want to present a positive view of Muslims and Islam, and so they don't want to present a negative view. So even when they're getting singled out, they won't do anything, because that would just reinforce people's idea of the evil Muslim, which is really actually quite sad that they have to suffer through that because of a preconceived notion of what their religion is through ignorance. So those are the 3 steps of becoming or gaining a religious identity. So once again, religious as ascribed, then you choose it, and then finally you declare it, usually because of a crisis of some sort. So just some main points that were in the conclusion of the article. Formation of a religious identity is a dynamic and an ongoing process. Religious identity itself is not a static phenomenon. So religious identity continues to change and grow, as we've seen in these 3 steps, and it can only just change from there. Achieved identity. Religious identity is an achieved status. If you can actually gain that religious identity, that's a pretty awesome thing, as it's once again achieved through steps. And finally, this article did say that 9/11 actually solidified Muslim American identity and made it a stronger social and political force. So contrary to what you would believe is that they try to hide it, they actually brought it forward. Basically, I believe what this article was trying to say is that religion is extremely important in your identity formation. And religious identity in itself is formed. And it's not just one static aspect of identity, but it's a formed aspect of a formed identity. So it's just creating more layers in the onion that is identity. Shrek analogy for you there. Other than that, that's a basic overview of the article. Once again, I hope I got everything there. Other than that, thanks so much.